So now that we have everything set up completely, we have our query builder. The next step for us will be to write some few more tests and also to create a factory. So we want a factory to just give us a query builder. We don't want to always need to do all of those, passing those parameters and all of that. Okay, so we need a factory that can give us a query builder. We're going to just quickly do that now. So once we do the factory, we can clean up our test and then we can pick it up from there. So if you don't know, a factory method is a creation method, a way that we can create objects by using identifiers. So you're going to see how this will work. We're going to say db query builder factory, db query builder factory. So a factory is where things are being created. So it's just going to be a static method that actually do the creation for us. Okay, so it's going to be really simple. So we're going to have one method here: public static function make. So we want to make a query builder, and to make a query builder we need to pass it the credential file. So this will be credential file. We need to also say the connection type. So is this PDO or is this MySQLi? Connection type. So for this, I'm going to really set default values. For me, I'm going to be using PDO anyway. So I'm going to set default values. So this is database, and then for the connection type, I'm going to set this to be PDO by default. And then we're going to have an array of options. So in case we want to override anything in the credentials, so that will be options, which is going to be a empty array by default. And then we could say that we want this to return a query builder. So the method returns a query builder. And the first thing here, we're going to have a variable called connection. This should be equal to null. And then we're going to say credentials is equal to array merge. So we're going to merge config get. So remember to import your config. We want the credential file, and then we want the connection type. So this is how we use our config. We pass it the credential type, the file of the credential. In our case, is always database. And then we pass it the connection type. And then we want to merge this with any options that is available. If there are no options, we just continue to use the credentials. But in our test case, we need this so that we'll be able to always get the test credentials overriding the normal credentials. Okay, so once we have this, we can then do a switch. So we can say switch the connection type. So if the connection type is PDO, so case PDO, for example, so if it is PDO, then we want to return a PDO query builder. Okay, and then we want to break out. If it is MySQLi, we want to return MySQLi query builder. And then we want to also break out. So in between here, we can now say connection is going to be equal to, so we can say new PDO connection, and then we pass it the credentials, and then we can call the connect method, connect, and that's it for PDO. Once we have the connection, then we can return the query builder. So we can say return a new query builder, and then pass it the connection. Okay, so remember that query builder, it's abstract. So we get to say PDO query builder. So we can pretty much just grab this and then use the property and then use the correct classes. So this should now be MySQLi connection, And then this should be MySQLi query builder. But what if we don't find the type, supported type? Then we need a default here to throw an exception. So we can say default throw new database connection exception, and then this we're going to pass it a string. Connection type is not supported or recognized internally. It's not recognized. It may be a valid connection type, but we don't recognize it. Okay, so and then we're just going to blast up with this. It's not recognized internally. And then we can pass this an array. So the array basically will be the type that was passed in. And that will be connection type. Okay, so basically this is the factory that will help us to just get a query builder very easily.